All right, good morning. Not fully back yet. Trying to get there. Feel, I would say slightly better, but only slightly.
I think you sound better. You definitely sound better.
I don't know. Drugs help, but I like...
Hey, you look great.
Thanks, pal. Appreciate that. After today, I have a lacrosse game to do and another radio show to do, so my apologies in advance to anyone who's got to put up with my voice. Like, it might survive for a little while today, but then after the show, it'll probably be shot again, and then... I said maybe tonight would be a good night to re-air an interview on the radio show because I'm not sure how much I have in me. Nobody got me any steroids yesterday. Thanks a lot, jerks. All I asked for was some good old-fashioned American steroids, and no one came through. I mean, what do you mean? You got any steroids, Colson? The steroids they give you when you can't breathe. There's a steroid that, like, when you can't breathe. You know a guy? I would like to talk. Is it the cream or the clear? It's not Barry Bonds, is it? Barry Bonds' ex-wife. I used to have to do, when I was working in Phoenix, I did a radio show from a car dealership every Friday, I want to say it was. And one day,
sounds like a great place.
The guy, it was actually like it was big, it was cool, and like the people were cool to hang out with, and they would always like do promotions where they'd be having like food giveaways and stuff, so they'd always be coming over and like giving us food. It was actually a fun place. I think it was called Wright Toyota, if I remember correctly.
You think they're still around?
I have no idea. I got to be honest with you. I couldn't tell you that. It's been 20 years or whatever it's been. So 15, 16 years, something like that. So I'm in there one day, and it would regularly happen that they would have like a celebrity customer at Wright Toyota. And if they were cool, they'd be like, "Hey, could you go over and sit in on the Fan 1060 is broadcasting today. Would you be willing to go over and sit in with them?" And like, every now and then it'd be like a Dan Marley type. There would be, somebody that we knew anyway. And we're like, "All right, bud, yeah, come on in." But every now and then it'd be someone somewhat more significant because like random athletes just live in Phoenix. It's the thing I ask Gavin Sheets all the time. I'm like, why don't you just move to Phoenix? Like, why would you choose to come back here every winter, hang out with Drew Forrester? That makes no sense. So one day we're doing our show, and all of a sudden one of the guys from the sales room comes like screaming at us in the middle of the show. Boys! I'm like, yo, is there a fire? Like, I don't know what's going on. He said, I got somebody for you. I'm like, okay. And again, we're on air as this is going on. He's like, Barry Bonds' ex-wife is here.
That sounds like a massive get.
Now remember, Barry Bonds is still very relevant in 2007, I think this would have been. 2007 sounds right. So Barry Bonds is still at a very relevant portion.
When was his final season?
Barry Bonds' final season was it might have been his final season, 07.
Okay.
Maybe. It was near-ish the end, for sure.
It says 07.
07, all right. So this is probably his final season. But he's still in American culture because of steroids and because he literally has his friend going to jail for him. He's a very relevant figure. So we're like, all right, I guess we'll put his ex-wife on.
Yeah, he made blue belt in jiu-jitsu last year.
Good for Barry Bonds. Good for him. Way to go. Never give up your dreams, kids. So they come screaming over. Yeah. They come screaming over. Now, I can say this because I'm not saying it. She would say. So she sits down. I don't even remember what her name was. But I do remember she was like a model. And I even want to say like maybe had appeared in Playboy. Maybe. I don't remember all the details. And we were scrambling to try to find them as this was going on. We're like, all right, I guess we're going to talk to Barry Bonds' ex-wife. And we start talking, of course, about steroids because, that's what we were going to talk about. And all she wants to talk about is the size of Barry's testicles. I think we started out like, and I wish I could remember her name.
Okay, so I'm looking at Kimberly Bell.
That's the one.
That's the one.
That's the one. Right. Kimberly Bell was her name. Was she a model?
I don't know. She wasn't big enough to have her own Wikipedia page. It doesn't look like.
All right. She was lovely. I remember how lovely she was. Oh, maybe they weren't married. Maybe it was an ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, it sounds like they were not married.
Whatever.
This one was not.
Whatever. Anyone.
The LA Times calls her mistress.
Well, that doesn't sound right. Maybe it's not Kimberly Bell.
Oh, okay.
It was
Did she ever testify against him? And
I don't know. I couldn't tell you that.
Kimberly Bell testified against him.
It doesn't sound right now. I definitely think I could have sworn it was ex-wife. But again,
Liz Watson.
That name doesn't ring a bell. Look, man.
It sounds like they didn't divorce until
I'm sorry.
2011.
Maybe it was Kimberly Bell. Maybe that's what it was. It was an ex-girlfriend. Dude, everything. I'm talking about something that happened in 2007.
Suzanne Bronco.
Kimberly Bell actually sounds familiar.
Okay.
That's the part that's bothering me. But I thought there was a more defined relationship. Maybe we just thought that.
Well, I mean,
Maybe we just went
public,
with it. Yeah, right? Maybe we just went with it. So I want to say something like, what's it like? I don't even remember how we started the interview, but like something innocuous, like very innocuous.
What's what like?
What's it like being a model or whatever it was? We started with something extraordinary innocuous, and I swear to God. Oh, you just want to ask me about the thing, don't you? I'm like, what the thing? Like, I guess what it's like being married to Barry Bonds. Yeah, sure, whatever, right? Like, she's like, they're tiny.
He just comes right out and says it.
I'm like, what? And I swear to God, because I'm like 24 at this point. I don't know what she's talking about.
Oh,
like,
you
what do you
knew.
mean? No, I didn't. Not when she first said it. They're tiny. I'm like, they're tiny. And I swear to God, like the light bulb goes off. Like, oh. And that's all she wants to talk about. I keep trying to find some other angle, some other discussion point. Like, so, does Barry get along with his teammates? Do they all? Because that was a story that was like popular then, is that they all hated him. She'd just be like, oh, they're so tiny.
Teammates are tiny?
Definitely not the teammates, unless that's what he referred to him as. It's all she wanted to talk about. After like 5 minutes, I finally said, well, Kimberly, it was lovely to meet you. Thank you for...
But just specifically the testicle part.
That's all she wanted to talk about.
Okay.
Nothing. I tried like 7 or 8 different ways. I was doing the show with a guy named Dan Minucci, who's been a regular with us over the years. He's Brock Purdy's quarterback coach and was one of my good friends out in Arizona. And he, because he's a former athlete, he's thinking that he's got nothing but testicles. Nothing but Barry Bonds, tiny, allegedly, according to her, not according to me, I wouldn't know. It's all she wanted to talk about. And I just said, I can't. I'm sorry. I also was in that place where, are we going to get sued?
For talking about.
Because Barry Bonds was, I think at that time, very lawsuit happy.
You might have a defamation case.
I was like, I remember I kept saying things like, allegedly, I kept yelling it out.
And she was like, no, I saw them.
I'm like, all right, we got to go. We got to go. And I remember the guy that was, selling her a car. He's just like, dude, how great was that? I'm like, yeah, it was something. That was interesting. I don't know why that came. Why did that come up?
Because you need steroids. You're trying to channel your inner Barry right now.
I'd like to see if somebody couldn't get me in touch.
You're trying to shrink your...
Told you about the time I emceed a Barry Bonds event.
Yes.
That was one
one
of the worst nights of my life. Hated it. Missed Maryland beating North Carolina so that I could be dehumanized by... Never mind. All right, we'll talk about that another time. Right now, it's time to update Man of the Match. Today's show, by the way, is brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com, who, of course, bring you CountySports.Zone as well, CountySports.Zone. Later this morning, we'll talk to Wes Brown about the latest in high school sports. You can always find the latest scores, schedules, rankings, and play Pick'em at CountySports.Zone, proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Do you want to add the extra star, or do you want me to do it?
I
feel like it's your hand, but it's your handwriting. We should keep.
You think you're gonna ruin the star?
I feel like we should keep the stars consistent. If you go away, then this is going to become awkward. But we should keep the stars consistent. Look, weird night. I wouldn't even say that Grayson Rodriguez was dominant per se last night. What did he allow? 8 base runners over 5 2/3. And there were a lot of hard hit balls. I saw some Yankees fans that were doing the bit were like, oh, it was unlucky. In a way, they're right. Now, we'll get to some of the nonsense that Yankees fans were saying. In a way, they're right. There was a lot of bad luck for them during the course of the game. But that's a Yankees lineup that is potent AF. Like, every time you realize that you have to go Juan Soto and Aaron Judge back-to-back, you're just like, Jesus Christ. How? And Grayson Rodriguez battled like hell last night and gave him 5 2/3 shutout innings against, one of the best lineups in baseball. So on a night where, there was only one RBI for the game, and I guess I could have given it to Gunnar because he did hit the home run, but I decided that Grayson Rodriguez was man of the match. It was a weird game, man. Like, and the other thing about Gunnar, of course, is him almost recklessly taking third base there in the 8th inning, and then ending up that being the difference in how they get the insurance run. Like, I remember we were at the trivia last night, and I'm looking up, and I'm like, why?
You see him going Soto and
why in the world would you try to take? It's the never have the third out at third base, right? Like, if the next batter is all that you're doing, literally, I'm saying to myself, all that you're doing is creating a scenario where you might be able to score on a wild pitch. Because, of course, if there's a base hit with 2 outs, you're going to be running, and you're going to score anyway. So why is it worth the risk to try to go to third base? Hi, Glenn Clark. Stupid. Big, giant stupid.
It's because Gunnar knows. I'm always a fan. I don't know. I'm always, I guess unless, I don't know. Soto, he does have a very good arm. I am always a fan of, make the out, force them to make a play. And Gunnar is, he is one of the best base runners.
He's a great base runner. There's no question about that. Look, man, it worked out.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it was great. But because, if he's not on third base, he doesn't score on Santander's ground ball because it never left the infield. Even if it gets bobbled, he's still stuck on third base. So it worked out brilliantly, but it definitely felt reckless in the moment. In the moment, it felt reckless, but it worked out. A lot of weird stuff, right? Like a solidly struck base hit to right field where Anthony Santander is able to throw out
Stanton, right?
Stanton. I have no idea what Stanton was doing.
Because
that was not as once it got past second base, nobody was catching it.
Yeah.
Like the only question was it going to be caught at second base, and once it wasn't, I'm like, dude, what is going on here?
He does not run well.
No, he does not. And then all the Yankees fans whining and complaining about the 9th inning. Some of them just looking for attention. Others genuinely bothered by the fact that the Orioles moved the wall. Now, I have maintained that I did not like it at the time, not because I disliked the idea, because I disliked the look. I don't like that jut. That doesn't feel right. That doesn't feel like that should be allowed. It should be, a consistent to me wall, not like one that I've never liked that in baseball. I never will like baseball stadiums that have random juts that create awkward angles where a ball could just happen to bounce off a certain part of the wall and go the other way, and you create inside the park home runs because of it. I don't like that.
Remember when Houston had that hill in center field?
It's the dumbest thing. That
They
stuff.
still have those pillars in left. So
They do.
Yeah.
That stuff feels like it shouldn't be allowed. That baseball should step in and say, no, it's a wall. It needs to be consistent. And I had hoped that at some point the Orioles would do something, but I get it. There's not a lot of real estate to work with without cutting into the bullpens, so they just kind of stuck with this. What doesn't bother me is that they moved the wall back. It's smart. They looked at all of the left-handed hitters they had coming and said, this won't hurt them, but it'll help our pitching. Let's do it. Smart. SMRT. I am so smart. Why it hurt? And I guess it's because the people that are around the Yankees are so used to any pop fly gets to be a home run. So they're bothered by the idea that you can hit a pop fly somewhere and it doesn't go out of a ballpark. I don't know. I don't know what to make of how weird they are.
Not a home
about
run
it.
at Yankee Stadium?
The one last night?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be pretty funny.
The Cabrera one. This is the one that they're complaining about, right? Yeah.
That's pretty
I'm
funny
sure.
if the Would It Dong.
The home run, but the What It Dong one, I was disappointed. They have Home Run Report now is the only one that is still the only bot that's still up.
That's a shame.
It is a shame because What It
Dong was wonderful.
What It Dong was very good.
I mean, we saw Anthony Santander hit a home run in Boston a couple weeks ago that absolutely should not have been a home run in any world. Should not have been a home run. But parks have – that's the way baseball works. That's baseball. It's almost hilarious how obsessed the Yankees have been with the Orioles moving their wall. It's like you love it. Like, dude, what is? Are you okay? Do you need help? The guy Brian Hoke, like 3 years ago, that would have been a home run for Oswaldo Cabrera. Like, well, actually, Oswaldo Cabrera was in Double-A 3 years ago, so I'm pretty sure that never would have been a home run for him. It's just my guess. I don't know. So weird, man. Like 33 years ago, it would have been weird because they would have been playing at a train station. So, I mean, we could just do this for forever. 100 years ago, how long do we want to keep going? 100 years ago, somebody would say, the Baltimore Orioles? Are they back? I thought they left. I mean, how far do we want to go with this? It's so bloody bizarre. A win's a win. And last night, the Orioles got a fair. It's okay for us to say the Orioles had a fair amount of good luck.
It was a home run at 6 ballparks.
Okay.
Yankee Stadium, not one of those.
It's pretty objectively hilarious. I'm not even certain that it was like it was. I'm not even certain it would have been a home run at the old Camden Yards. Like, it's possible that would have just. It was close, but it's also possible that would have been like off the wall at the old Camden Yards. I don't know. It was right there in that jut, but I didn't know for sure that it was over the wall as much as it was at the wall. Whatever, who cares?
Expected batting average of 280. So
okay, so I mean, sounds like it's a fly ball.
Yeah, probably because in 28% of ballparks it's a home run. So that's probably.
I mean, again, until you want to get to the place where you say all baseball stadiums have to have the exact same dimensions. And look, I've had this conversation with people. To me, it's a little goofy because we always like hold up these stats to be, this guy hit 40 home runs, but like there's no context for that. I've always wondered if at some point like the Players Association wouldn't start arguing for that. But until you get to that point, it's such a bizarre thing to whine about. Like if it's that's interesting. There's 6 stadiums where that would have been a home run. How about that? Okay? It's not this one. So, what else you got? It's just weird, man. Very, very weird obsession. Orioles win. Orioles win with an amount of luck. Thankfully, Gunnar Henderson got an early home run because they were struggling to score runs. Very frustrating, like to have second and third with one out and not be able to produce a run. There's some frustration, but they won. And that's the part that matters, and they move into first place again, percentage points ahead of the Yankees with 3 more games to go. The other story from yesterday was that Dylan Tate was the one to go for CNL Perez. As we talk about the Orioles' bullpen issues, and give them credit for getting the job done last night, it got hairy at times, but they got through it with no Craig Kimbrell. We talk about the Orioles' bullpen issues. One of the storylines that we were discussing coming into the season was how important Dylan Tate could be if he could return to form. To be clear, his velocity has not been what it was 2 years ago. He has not looked like the pitcher that he was 2 years ago. This still feels like roster manipulation. It's easy to say, why in the world would Dylan Tate go down when you could just get rid of Yohan Ramirez? The answer back from the Orioles might as well have been, well, Dylan Tate's pitched recently and wouldn't be available tonight, and Yohan Ramirez would be. And as we know, they're going to have to make 2 more roster moves this week as it is. I can't fathom Yohan Ramirez surviving the week. They're bringing back 2 more pitchers. I don't think there's much of a chance that Yohan Ramirez will be on this baseball team at the end of the week. I mean, short of other injuries, as I knock on every piece of wood. And so it's a bummer for Dylan Tate that he had an option left. It seems like he doesn't deserve this. But this is how the Orioles do their business. He hasn't been great. Like, he hasn't been rock solid to start the season, and they needed a roster spot. It's kind of a sorry, man. That's just kind of the way it works here. But I do think it was just because Ramirez was available last night and the other guys weren't. I think the interesting thing will be, again, how do they continue manipulating this, knowing that they have 2 starting pitchers coming back later in the week? Like, who might be available out of the bullpen at what point? My assumption is they go to a 6-man rotation, but do they say to Cole Irvin on whatever day, like Dean Kramer's pitching tonight, so he's clearly not coming out of the bullpen, but do they say to Cole Irvin,
tomorrow and Thursday,
our plan is that you're going to be the starter on, I'm presuming, Saturday, but in the meantime, whatever day would be your day to get your work in, we're going to make you available out of the bullpen too, because if we need you, then we're going to skip your start this time through. And you hope that doesn't become something that they have to deal with, but it'll just be interesting to see if they are going to use a 6-man rotation. They got to find somebody's going to have to be available to pitch out of the bullpen should they get into trouble. And they had to use a bunch of pitchers last night to get through a shutout. So they didn't use Craig Kimbrell. If he's not going on the injured list, and you would have thought that would have happened yesterday, then he better be available tonight. They can't afford to have Craig Kimbrell sidelined for a couple of days while they're also trying to do this adjustment. Dean Kramer tonight against Nestor Cortez as the series continues just after 6:30. Oh, man. I also watched a lot of basketball last night. I say I watched. I was conking out.
It was a good game, though.
Allergy meds got to me. Yeah, it was a good game. So, remind me, did the Lakers not have a timeout left at the end of the game? They must not have.
I wasn't paying as close of attention as you.
Like, I remember they challenged and won the challenge to protect their last timeout, and then it all kind of goes spacey after that, where I was hopped up on allergy pills.
Gotcha.
Like, because when they inbounded the ball with like 4 seconds left, I just thought to myself, what? I thought they still had a timeout. They must not have. There's no way that LeBron James is making that mistake of not advancing the ball.
Just heaving up, yeah.
Like, I couldn't believe that. Look, credit to the Lakers. They battled much more than I expected them to, and I really do think that the Timberwolves-Nuggets series is going to be – I was so confident about the Nuggets after having watched both of these teams in their first series. Man, I am almost like 50-50 at this point. I'm so impressed by the Timberwolves, and the Nuggets were kind of just good enough. Trailed at halftime in every game of the series, which is so bizarre. I get the difference being like the old legs and the old injured legs on Los Angeles kind of tired out, although LeBron's the oldest, and he was the one that was still kind of getting the job done for the most part. A lot of people have pointed out it's going to be the first time that we get to the second round of the playoffs with no Durant, LeBron, or Steph Curry since Curry came into the league.
Yeah, it's been 20 years was the stat I saw. 20 years since we haven't had any of them. So pretty much since LeBron got into the league then?
Must be.
Yeah.
That can't be right, though. He made the second round every year? That can't be right. Because I think the Cavaliers were still bad at first. But it's got to be close. Maybe LeBron's 21 years into his career at this point. That might be what it is. It's wild. There's definitely no way around that. It's wild that that's the case, but it's what we talked about with Jeremy yesterday. Like this new guard has taken over, and those guys are not going to carry teams to titles anymore.
Yeah, so it's been 20 seasons. Like the 05-06 season was the first season that LeBron made the second round. So
it's wild. There's it's a wild stat, but that's the reality of it. Times change.
I was 4 years old the last time none of them were in the second round.
That's terrifying. But yeah, times change. It's what it is, and there's a new guard, and they're really good. And it'll be fascinating to see. I think Anthony Edwards steps up to potentially be, to change the narrative the most moving forward. All right, coming up this morning, we'll talk some more baseball with Mike Bordick. We will preview Championship Weekend Selection Sunday in college lacrosse with Patrick Stevens, CountySports.Zone Radio. And we come back in, we're going to meet one of the newest members of the Baltimore Ravens. Draft pick Sanoussi Kane in the 7th round out of Purdue joins us next. It's GCR.
Hartford Community College will host the National Junior College Athletic Association's 2024 Men's Lacrosse National Championship and Women's Lacrosse Invitational on May 11th and 12th at Hartford Sports Complex, 401 Thomas Run Road in Bel Air, Maryland. The semifinals on May 11th include the Women's Invitational, with the Women's North A representative playing the Mid-Atlantic B representative at 10 a.m., and the Women's North B representative facing off against the Mid-Atlantic A representative at 12:30 p.m. For the men's championship, the number 1 seed will play the lowest remaining seed in the quarterfinal round at 3:30 p.m. The men's number 2 seed will face off against the highest remaining seed at 6 p.m. May 12th is reserved for the national championship games at noon for the women and 4 p.m. for the men. Tickets are $20 each day at hartfordevents.com or at the gate if available.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland, at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hungry? With 7 locations throughout Maryland, Glory Days Grill is always right around the corner. They have wings, burgers, salads, sandwiches, and drinks to satisfy everyone, as well as tons of televisions and sound delivered right to your phone. Glory Days is the best place to watch football or whatever your favorite sport is. While you're there, be sure to check out Goose Flights Lager, named in honor of legendary Raven Tony Goose Siragusa. $2 of every can is donated to the Goose Flights Foundation. Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports.
Oh, honey, we better stop for gas soon. Let's pull into that Royal Farms.
Ugh, gas is so expensive.
Nope, it'll be cheaper than you think.
Why's that?
I signed up for Rofo Pay on the Royal Farms app. Now we save 15 cents per gallon at all Royal Farms.
Wow, that'll save us a ton of money. I love you more every day.
Well then, don't get a speeding ticket this trip, okay?
Sign up for Rofo Rewards and upgrade to Rofo Pay and save 15 cents a gallon on gas for a limited time. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
All right, back in here on GCR as it can continue along. Here on a Tuesday edition of the program, it's brought to you by Atman's Deli in Harbor Point. Everything you loved about the original Atman's now on top of all delicious deli sandwiches, the corned beef piled high, the pickle bar, the soups, the desserts. They also have a full bar for you to hang out, watch games. It's the best place in the world. Atman's Deli, now open in Harbor Point. Find out daily specials at atmansdeli.com. Of course, the NFL Draft was this past weekend, and our next guest got to live the dream of hearing his name called in the 7th round of the NFL Draft by the Baltimore Ravens. It is a pleasure to welcome in for the first time here on GCR, former Purdue safety Sanoussi Kane, who's with us. Sanoussi, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you for taking the time. Congratulations.
Thank you for having me.
What is that feeling like? Like I'm sure that like there's a part of you that's like, hey man, I wouldn't have minded if it had been in like the 4th or 5th round. But like, what is the feeling like? You've waited your entire life. What is that feeling like when you get that phone call?
It's just a dream come true. When I looked at my phone and I seen the Maryland tag on there, I knew exactly who it was. So it was just a dream come true. Like this. Obviously, I waited a while, but at the end of the day, all that waiting is worth it when you get that call.
That's awesome, man. Like you say you knew, is that like because of conversations that you had or your agent had? Like, did you have a feeling that it was going to work out for you, that you were going to be a Baltimore Raven?
Yeah, I kind of had a feeling. Baltimore was the first team that really showed a lot of interest. They had one of the DB coaches come out for my pro day. And I went on a visit to Baltimore, and I just liked the place. It went well. The visit went well, and I fell in love with Baltimore. Obviously, I got 2 high school teammates that play on the Ravens, so that's a surreal moment for all 3 of us, knowing that we're going to play together again this time in the NFL.
It's a really cool story, of course. Adafe. We're going to talk about Adafe and David Ojabo here in a second, but before we do, if I could, does the fact that you had such comfort and you felt that connection with the Ravens, and obviously it's a heck of an organization, does that help mitigate any of the feelings of, hey, I wish I wouldn't have slipped to the 7th round? Is there like a part of you that says, hey, if I got to wait 7 rounds and I get the call from a place like that, I'm good with it. That's a better scenario for me.
Oh, no, definitely. You definitely feel that that comfortability knowing that you're about to go to an organization such as the Baltimore Ravens. I've been watching football my whole life, so understanding the guys that came before me, obviously the Ed Reeds, the Ray Lewises of the world, the Terrell Suggs of the world. Now we have Kyle Hamilton, we have Roquan Smith. Like those guys have set the foundation for what it means to be a Raven. So now it's my job to uphold and lift that standard of playing like a Baltimore Raven.
That's awesome, man. Sanoussi Kane is with us here on GCR. All right, so yeah, let's talk about it, right? Like, this is kind of a crazy story, how the Ravens keep dipping their toe into the Blair Academy pipeline over the years. What is your relationship like with Adafe and David Ojabo? And, have you stayed in touch with them as they've started their NFL journey the last few years?
Yeah, so we've always stayed in touch. So that's actually like kind of the funny thing. So when I went on my visit, David was actually in the facility, so we got to chop it up. Me and David haven't seen each other until that point in about 3 to 4 years because he went to school, I went to school, so we didn't get a chance to either play each other or see each other really. So that was great, but we always talk on the phone. And then me and Dafe, he was always giving me advice about what I should do in my next steps. So it was really cool to have that moment with those guys. And after the draft, they called me and we were able to chop it up a little bit. So it's just an exciting feeling. I know our high school coach, Coach Shelley, he's super proud. And he's going to come to probably almost every home game that we had at this point now.
Man, they might want to start thinking about changing Blair's name to the Ravens at some point. This is kind of crazy. That's really cool, though. That you have, and I feel like it's got to help for the transition too, right? That like you already have established relationships and friends that can help teach you more about what's going on. That's got to be part of the benefit of knowing where you're coming.
Oh, no, definitely. So now I know, like, whatever barber they have, I'm going to have. However they got their houses, I'm going to get that my way, too. So, like, it's going to be great just knowing I'm going to have a guiding source that I've been close with for years. So, like, it's a surreal moment.
Sanoussi, your path to this point interests me a lot, right? Like, you're a kid from Harlem, and I'm to understand you didn't come to football immediately. Can you take me sort of through your path and when football came into the equation for you?
Yeah, so basically, obviously, I'm from Harlem, New York. So New York is a basketball town. So obviously, I grew up watching basketball, playing basketball on the street, playing basketball on the corner. But eventually, I started transitioning towards football once I seen my older cousins playing it. So they're from Philly. So football is more well known in Philly than it is in New York. So every time I used to go out there to Philly, watch them play football, I started to get interest. Then after watching some football games, I was like, oh yeah, I gotta play. So when I was 13, I signed up for an organization called the Harlem Jets,
Okay.
which is in Harlem. And our team was the number 1 ranked team in the country at the time for youth football. So we ended up making it to the national championship, and that was my first experience playing football. So ever since then, I fell in love with the game.
Wow. Did you know immediately, like when you got out on the field, like I can do this? Or when did that, like when was the moment where it struck you, like, man, this might not just be something I'm having fun with, like this might be something I'm capable of doing for, like the better part of my life?
I think it struck me in high school. So in youth football, I really wasn't a good player. Like obviously, I said we played on a national championship contending team. So I really wasn't getting that much burn in youth football.
Okay.
So I ended up going to high school, which is Cardinal Hayes High School in the Bronx, which was another prominent program in New York City at the time. And my sophomore year, once I started playing safety, I actually started making a lot more plays, and people started to recognize who I was. And that's really when it started to click for me that, yeah, I can really do this.
Obviously, it's worked out. Like, obviously, that's the case. I've heard a lot, and I've gone back and looked at your film about your hitting. And I know, like, the game has changed, and this isn't the era of like jacked up and big hits, but you seem like kind of a bit of a traditional safety in that you're willing to go blow some people up. Where did that come from?
That came from the Harlem Jets, man. Yeah. We were a hard-nosed team. Like Harlem is a tough area, so we were a tough team. And ever since then, like I've just been carrying that on my back and being a tough player. So obviously the rules have changed and whatnot, so I got to lower the strike zone a little bit, but I still can get some big hits off in the NFL.
Sanoussi Kane with us here on GCR, Ravens 7th-round pick out of Purdue. Sanoussi, how has your the position has evolved so much in recent years, right? You referenced Kyle Hamilton earlier. Like I don't even know what to call Kyle, right? Like he's legitimately the definition of a Swiss Army knife. He is lined up as a defensive tackle. Like it's nuts. How much have you experienced that during your collegiate career, and have you found yourself playing? Like I've definitely seen film where it looked like you were playing a little bit more of kind of a linebacker position.
Yeah, so I definitely experienced the switch of it in my collegiate career. So my first start was at corner. So my first 2 years, I came in as a safety, but my first 2 years at Purdue, I played corner. So I actually got my first start as a corner playing Tennessee in the bowl game. So then the year after, I played free safety almost exclusively, but I was in the box a lot more. And due to the coaching change that we had the year after that, I played almost exclusively in the box. So basically almost playing like a linebacker. So like you said, the Swiss Army knife comparison, like I've played and started at several different positions in the defensive secondary.
That's the way it goes now, right? Like that's the nature of the beast.
Exactly.
Are you familiar at all with like Geno Stone's story? And a lot of people are bringing up the fact that like you might be here kind of to replace him, but nothing's promised to a 7th-round pick. Geno was a guy who like got cut a couple of times and then ended up becoming a damn good player and got paid. Are you familiar with his story at all, and does that inspire you for what might be possible for someone selected in the 7th round by the Ravens?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm definitely familiar with his story. So I have a couple of teammates from Indianapolis that know him, that actually know him well. So I was definitely familiar with his story. So I've actually been hearing a lot more about his story since I've got drafted by the Ravens. And it's definitely inspirational, Obviously, you don't want to get cut at all, but he worked through all the bumps and bruises that he had in his career, and now he's making a lot of money playing this game for the Bengals. So obviously, we don't want him to go to the Bengals. That's the division rival.
Right. That's the way it goes now. Yeah. We love him as a guy, but we're just gonna have to hate him. That's the nature of the beast.
Exactly. So no, definitely inspirational. hopefully I can have carve out a path similar to the one he carved out for himself.
Love that, man. And what about are you familiar at all with the it's funny, you're the first ever Purdue player selected in the draft by the Baltimore Ravens, but you're not the first ever Purdue player to play for the Ravens, and in fact, you're not the first ever Purdue defensive back. Did you ever I don't even know if it was Rand. Did you ever come across either Rod Woodson or Bernard Pollard at any point in your time at Purdue? How familiar are you with those guys?
I haven't come across them at my time at Purdue. I'm probably going to come across them now just because we have that similar path from going to Purdue. Obviously, Rod didn't start off on the Ravens, or Bernard started off on the Ravens, but they ended up being on the Ravens towards the end of their careers. So I know I'll probably get in contact with them soon. So just ask them how it is to play like a Raven, because the tradition hasn't changed since when they were playing. So just going from Purdue to becoming a Baltimore Ravens, and both of them got Super Bowl rings. So
you know, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you know what I'm saying? Maybe a Purdue safety is what we need to get over that hump.
I'm so glad you said it out loud, because it was the exact thing I was thinking. Maybe that's what it takes. In order for the Ravens to win a Super Bowl, they've got to have a Purdue safety on the roster. I hope it makes it 3 for 3. That would be great for us, man. Sanoussi, I really appreciate your time. Before we let you go, I just want to get to know you, man. Tell me, away from football, what drives you? What are you all about? What does life look like when you're not on a football field?
Yeah, I think what drives me is definitely family. Not only my immediate family, but my extended family. So my Harlem Jet family, the guys that I went to school with, that. All of those guys I consider family, and that drives me because I'm really the first guy from Harlem to be in this position. So making sure that I'm representing for everybody that's helped put me in this position. But off the field, I'm a cool guy. I'm a chill guy, man.
Awesome.
I watch a lot of movies.
Tell me something.
I watch a lot of TV.
What have you watched recently? Give me something that you'd recommend.
I just watched. Well, right now, it's actually hilarious that I started this. I'm watching The Wire. I'm watching The Wire over again. So I didn't know I was gonna get drafted by Baltimore, but that was actually kind of a crazy coincidence that I started rewatching The Wire again during this time, and I got drafted by the Ravens. But
you're gonna hear that whistle at the game.
Yeah.
You're gonna hear it, and it's gonna hit you. It is gonna be right in the feels, man.
Oh yeah, my guy Omar, man.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yep. You come at the king. You
best not miss. Yep.
I love that, man. God, I love that. Sanoussi Kane, it's so cool getting to know you. Let's make sure we plug. I know it's at Sanoussi Kane 1 on Twitter. What about on Instagram? Where can Ravens fans be giving you a follow?
They can follow me at Nuski, NUSKI _21.
All right, give him a follow there. Sanoussi, really, I can't thank you enough for taking the time for us. We can't wait to see you out there and to get to know you better over the coming months and leading up to the start of the season. Seriously, congratulations to you, to your family, for having this opportunity to live your dream, man, as a Baltimore Raven. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you. I can't wait to show out.
Appreciate you, man. Sanoussi Kane. Very cool. How about that man's done his homework. He knows. Both Super Bowl rosters had a Purdue safety on them. He knows. He's aware. I love it. I love the fact that he knew that off the top of his head. So let's make it 3 for 3. Let's make it 3 Super Bowl rosters with 3 Purdue safeties on them for the Baltimore Ravens moving forward. Great stuff from Sanoussi Kane. Appreciate him taking the time for us. And, we'll do our best to catch up with some of these guys during the course of the week. Can't promise anything. That's the way it goes, but we'll try to check in with them. All right, so we're moving some things around this morning. Griffin's going to have to tell me what we're doing, but we're going to chat with Karl Ravech right now, right?
Yes, that is correct, in about 60 seconds.
All right, we're going to chat with Karl Ravech. Karl was watching Orioles-Yankees last night and was tweeting about it, and I wanted to talk to him about what he saw with the Orioles and the Yankees and how the Orioles, how things have changed so dramatically here in Baltimore. Stan and Luke got together yesterday. If you missed it, you can find it at facebook.com/PressBoxSports, youtube.com/PressBoxOnline, or PressBoxOnline.com/video. I heard Luke got a shout-out on the broadcast last night. We had the sound off where I was. But I heard that Jim Palmer referenced Luke's cover story on Grayson Rodriguez in the new print issue of PressBox, which you can, of course, find anywhere around town. Hundreds of locations where you pick up PressBox, including your neighborhood Royal Farm store. You can read the whole thing at PressBoxOnline.com. But, yeah, Stan and Luke got together yesterday, and if you haven't read this great Grayson Rodriguez story yet, then go pick up this new print issue of PressBox today so you can read it right there. Jim Palmer referencing it on the Brave. If Jim Palmer can learn something about baseball from a story, you know it's significant. So that was a very cool moment. Everybody, I got our old buddy Carson Weekly was texting me, Dude, Jim Palmer's talking about PressBox. I was like, that's cool. That's cool. Very, very cool. All right, Orioles did win 2-0 in the opener against the Yankees last night. They got 3 more to play against New York this week. And I happen to notice our next guest was tweeting about the scene and particularly noticing how it looked a little bit different than what Orioles-Yankees games have looked like over the years in Baltimore. Joining us now, he is, of course, ESPN, Baseball Tonight, and play-by-play voice extraordinaire. Our friend, Mr. Karl Ravech, is back with us here on GCR. Karl, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's always great to catch up with you. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
Yeah, my pleasure, Glenn. No problem at all. It's a fun boat to be riding on right now.
Sure is.
Baltimore.
It sure is. What you said, I hate the fact that it's true, right? Like, we have to acknowledge that here in Baltimore, but it's true. For years, if there was somebody at the ballpark, it was because it was a boatload of Yankees or Red Sox fans that made their way down here. What is it? I remember talking to you about it a little bit last summer when you were in town, but like seeing how things have changed and knowing how important the Orioles are for the history of baseball, what does it mean to you just as someone, I'm not suggesting you're rooting for the Orioles, but you care about the sport. What does it mean to you to see scenes like that last night?
I mean, look, there are certain cities whose relationship with their baseball team are a little bit different than they are with even other professional sports teams in those markets. And you have a really, really good football team in that market, but there clearly are. St. Louis is one of them that are just that are really baseball beds, and they haven't been able to get in it and sleep comfortably in the last couple of years in Baltimore. St. Louis is kind of going through it right now. Look, the Cubs, when Chicago is invested in the Cubs, it's better. Boston's similar, and they have 2 very successful teams in the postseason now with the Bruins and Celtics. Yep. You'd like to see those ballparks full of enthusiastic baseball fans, and you'd rather them not be wearing a B or an NY on their hat in Baltimore. You want them to be wearing the orange bird, and that's most important. So they're just good markets. There are really good people there. They've been very patient, and clearly the ownership change has changed the mood, the temperature in the room. And I think I was watching last night, and they were talking about what's going to happen in 4 or 5 years when these guys become free agents. It at least feels like there's a chance that the ownership will invest in a handful of them as opposed to none of them, which is encouraging.
Yeah, it's obviously it's complicated, right? Because you got a couple of Boris clients in there, and Gunnar and Jackson Holliday, and now Adley Rutschman's only a year away. But to the point, like, it feels like there's an opportunity. I think what you talk about with hope, it's so significant. And so many of the little things, right? Like, it doesn't really you could call Cal Ripken a figurehead in this ownership group, right? But, like, that's a good thing. Like, baseball fans want to see that. Like, it's so hard to explain.
You want a connection to the glory days. You need to know that we're not unplugged from the rocket ship and we're just floating out here. Right. And for a long time, it felt like we were floating, and now there's a reconnection. Look, it's happened in most of these cities where a team has kind of gone down, and then all of a sudden you see some of the historic legends from years past be invited to spring training, and we're trying to recreate some positive vibes in the room. And that's what the Orioles are going through now. And again, you guys hit on, and it's not simple, but you hit on the draft picks. And a lot of teams have had draft picks, and not struck gold. You seem to have, the organization, this one and the prior administration seems to have hit on some of them, and it's now yielding its fruit. And when you look at last night, it's quite clear. Watching Giancarlo Stanton get nailed on a ball into the outfield, like that was symbolic a little bit of the age of the Yankees. And currently the Orioles are the young guys.
Yep.
And generally young and free and loose tends to win in sports. It happens.
And on the flip side, there's Gunnar Henderson, aggressively taking third base and ending up getting the insurance run on an error. Karl Ravech is with us here on GCR. Karl, I just want to get your thoughts on a couple of topics that have been relevant for the Orioles recently. One, of course, I referenced Jackson Holliday. I am not worked up about this. I thought the Orioles needed to have Jackson Holliday up because of the nature of the PPI program, and that if he was going to be as good as everybody thought he was, you're just costing yourself potentially having a top 35 draft pick this year by not putting him on the roster. They did that. They got him on the roster within 2 weeks. It wasn't working. I don't have a problem saying, hey, these games matter right now. We're trying to win a World Series. I understand the argument that it might be best for Jackson Holliday to let him work it out at the major league level, but it doesn't bother me, and it just doesn't – I feel like we have enough of a history of guys that got up and got sent back down and were totally fine on the other end, including, Alex Rodriguez, that I can't worry too much about this. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I think it's multiple issues with somebody like Holliday. I think, in Holliday's case, his spring numbers, like Wyatt Langford's, were so good that you get frustrated in the way baseball has operated, which is it doesn't matter if he hit 800 and had 26 homers in spring. We're never bringing the guy up. And that part, we believe there have been some efforts, obviously, to change that. Holliday's play in spring warranted an opening day roster spot. The other part of the issue is the Orioles are so good and so deep, it wasn't necessary from a team perspective to reward the spring because we're dead without him. You're not.
Right.
You weren't. You were going to win. So it's a double-edged sword on Holliday's case. I don't like it when we don't have the best players in Major League Baseball. I think currently it's a little embarrassing that the Pittsburgh Pirates got off to a really good start. And having seen Paul Skeens in college and in Omaha, he's better than, I don't want to put a number on it, he's worthy of being on the big league roster and starting at the Major League level, and he's not there. And that part stinks. That's not right. In Pittsburgh's case, they would benefit, it feels like, and certainly giving the guy an opportunity to succeed or fail makes sense. They need him. I was of the mind if Holliday has earned it and the Orioles need him, he should be up there. The best players should be on the biggest stage, but the Orioles didn't necessarily need to have him up there. And that's where it's a little bit of a tricky one because of the team and because of his performance in the spring, which was so good.
No, everything you just said works for me, and I connect with, and I'm not panicked about it. I just think
I'm not.
Grayson Rodriguez went down a year ago. It looks okay for him. It looks like he's going to be all right. I feel like that this is part of baseball, and guys understand that, and they're competitors. They want to go win. I can't imagine this breaking Jackson Holliday that he's got to go back down to AAA.
No, I don't think it will, Glenn. The other question is because they're so equipped to survive, could they have left him up there? I mean, I know that there are echoes saying, well, let him work it out there.
Yep.
He's ideally he goes back down. He hits 750, and you realize he doesn't belong there, and he clearly struggled up here. So where is he better off?
That's a fair question. It's a very fair question. The bullpen, it was a bit of a mess this weekend with Craig Kimbrell. It's been, even when Craig Kimbrell was good, the bullpen was a concern for the Orioles. They're getting a couple of starting pitchers back this week, which is really encouraging, and Kyle Bradish and John Means. But is the bullpen the biggest difference right now in this team's ability to win a World Series? Can this team with the bullpen as constructed win, or are they going to have to fortify that during the course of the year?
Yeah, I think the good news is that most teams look at bullpens as things that they can address later. Yeah. It's not something you need to go in. And look what the Astros did when they had Presley and then they added Hader, and it's not been very good at all in Houston. In fact, the the whole thing in
Miserable.
Houston hasn't been very good. But the idea, like the bullpen was going to be an incredible strength, that has not been the case for them. So, look, I would say the same way you're not concerned about Holliday, I'm not overly concerned about the bullpen, especially given the pieces the Orioles have to go and acquire an incredible arm. And I would imagine that today, as we sit here and speak, Glenn, that in a month, in 2 months, in 3 months, the names that would be at the top of the wish list for bullpen arms are going to change 15 times. So that's the one I would not be overly, and I'm not overly concerned about that. The truth is, the problem is the guy that was as good as anybody is currently on the team, and he can't pitch.
Yep.
That's the biggest issue.
Yep.
That's what's unfortunate.
Could you imagine this group with a Felix Bautista? My God.
Right, exactly.
I hear what you're saying, but I'm starting to believe that Mason Miller might just be that type of freak.
He may be.
Dude.
He may be, but again, Josh Hader was that type of freak.
That's true.
I'm sure the Astros were like, oh, my God, can you believe it? If we can get Presley in the 8th and Hader in the 9th,
no doubt,
we're going to run away here, and look at where they are right now. So that's the beauty of the game. It's human beings that play it.
I was terrified of what they had in Houston with those two guys at the back of the end of the bullpen. Karl Ravech, is there anything I can plug for you, my friends?
No, just everybody salute the new ownership there. A great quick story. A friend of mine had hooked me up with a buddy to go play golf twice, and I never knew who the guy was. I was there because my friend brought me there. It turns out that the guy we played with twice, who I subsequently got to know over the 2 times we played, was Mike Arrighetti. Phenomenal guy, and you're in great shape with him being part of this ownership group. He is a sports fan. Obviously, the primary owner is as well. So it's there is just a real sense of optimism, and I think in that city, having worked in Harrisburg for so many years, it's wonderful to see the folks in that area get a chance to celebrate baseball again.
I'm telling you, I got a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old son, and they're both obsessed right now. They actually asked to stop playing lacrosse so they could play baseball this year, so they could
there you go. We love that.
They wanted to cosplay as Gunnar Henderson. I mean, it's just an exciting time, man. Karl Ravech, always appreciate taking the time for us. Look forward to hopefully seeing you here in Baltimore during the course of the summer.
Amen, Glenn. Thanks, buddy. Enjoy the season. Enjoy this series. It's fun.
Thanks, Karl. Karl Ravech with us here on GCR. Appreciate him taking the time for us as he was in tune with Orioles-Yankees last night. All right, hour number 1 of today's show is in the books. When we come back in, we'll preview a big week in college lacrosse. It's a championship week and Selection Sunday. Patrick Stevens will break it all down for us next. Glenn Clark Radio.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Discover one of Baltimore's hidden gems at Guilford Hall Brewery. Enjoy dinner in our spacious brew pub, sip a signature cocktail in our outdoor, dog-friendly beer garden, or take a tour of our brewery. Discover your new favorite local craft beer. From crisp lagers to hoppy ales, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Pair your brew with delicious appetizers and entrees. There are options for the whole family, but you have to try our fan-favorite giant pretzel. Guilford Hall Brewery, where every sip is a celebration. Visit us online at guilfordhall.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
Oh, honey, we better stop for gas soon. Let's pull into that Royal Farms.
Ugh, gas is so expensive.
Nope, it'll be cheaper than you think.
Why's that?
I signed up for Rofo Pay on the Royal Farms app. Now we save 15 cents per gallon at all Royal Farms.
Wow, that'll save us a ton of money. I love you more every day.
Well then, don't get a speeding ticket this trip, okay?
Sign up for Rofo Rewards and upgrade to Rofo Pay and save 15 cents a gallon on gas for a limited time. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Craving that classic New York deli experience? Look no further than the new Atman's Deli in Baltimore's Harbor Point. Corned beef piled high, hand-rolled bagels, and something different. A bar! Atman's has food and drink specials every day. Now open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Dine in, grab takeout, or hang out at the bar for the next O's game. Atman's Deli, an authentic taste of Baltimore tradition since 1915. Find us at Harbor Point or visit atmansdeli.com.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Hungry? With 7 locations throughout Maryland, Glory Days Grill is always right around the corner. They have wings, burgers, salads, sandwiches, and drinks to satisfy everyone, as well as tons of televisions and sound delivered right to your phone. Glory Days is the best place to watch football or whatever your favorite sport is. While you're there, be sure to check out Goose Flights Lager, named in honor of legendary Raven Tony Goose Siragusa. $2 of every can is donated to the Goose Flights Foundation. Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Tuesday edition of the program. The best place to watch all of the big events is at Sports and Social inside Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. During the postseason, every night it's an electric atmosphere. They're showing the Orioles and they're showing the playoffs. Like last night would have been such a great night with that big game. We didn't even mention, obviously, the Thunder clinched and the Celtics moved to within a game of clinching. So every night there's big games and that giant media wall, incredible atmosphere, great food at Sports and Social inside Live Casino and Hotel. All right, joining us now as he does every Tuesday, he's going to get us ready for Championship Week and, of course, Selection Sunday in college lacrosse. He is our friend, USA Lacrosse Magazine, The Washington Post. You follow him on Twitter at Discourse, D1S Course. He's Patrick Stevens, and he's with us once again here on GCR. Patrick, good morning, man. How are you?
I'm well, Glenn. How are you doing today?
Everything is good. So I guess let's start generically, right? Like, how many spots are really still at stake in the field going in towards Sunday, and how much does that have to do with what might happen in a certain, like, are there any potential bid thieves in this process?
Yes, there are as many as 3, and I can actually give you a 5-step process that basically will essentially fix the field before we even get to Saturday. Now, that doesn't mean that you wouldn't have, for example, either team that would win the CAA, like if it's a Towson-Delaware final. There's
Right.
one spot for them regardless. But in terms of fixing the at-large field, I can give you 5 steps that basically locks it in. And that would be Denver and Georgetown winning the Big East semifinals, knocking Providence and Villanova out.
Yep.
Johns Hopkins beating Michigan and basically eliminating the last potential bid snatcher in the Big Ten. And then a Cornell-Yale final in the Ivy League, which would deal losses to Penn and Princeton. And at that point, there is essentially 11 teams filling up 3 automatic bids and 8 at-larges that we would know. We would have the 4 ACC teams that are going to get in: Syracuse, Virginia, Duke, and Notre Dame. You'd have 3 Big Ten teams at that point: Maryland, Penn State, and Johns Hopkins. You would have 2 Ivy League teams, Cornell and Yale, and you would have 2 teams out of the Big East in Denver and Georgetown, and that would be the field. So there's 5 things that if they happen, and it's, I actually think the 3 on Thursday probably do happen. The Ivy League is a little bit more chaotic, I think. You're talking about basically Cornell and Yale having to pay back losses from the regular season. Cornell's playing Penn and Yale's playing Princeton. But this could actually be, there's a chance that this could be much, 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 much simpler than it was last year when there were all sorts of moving parts over the weekend.
Let me go back to what you said at the top. When you brought up the CAA, does Towson have a chance of getting in as an at-large?
No,
Okay.
no,
All
it's a one bid list.
All right, I just wanted to make sure that. Okay.
Unfortunately for Towson, who's had a great season,
Yep.
who's on a roll right now, and really showed some real gumption coming back against Delaware on Friday night up in Newark. They got to win 2 more, and I do think that they can be a handful for somebody in the NCAA tournament if they get in, but they're going to have to win 2, and that's probably going to mean beating Delaware again in a title game. Towson gets Drexel in the first semifinal on Thursday. Delaware plays Fairfield in the second, and those games are at Towson. So home field advantage for Towson in this tournament.
No doubt. All right, so if there are a couple of bid thieves, who is sweating it out most if they don't win their conference tournaments this week?
You're probably talking about Georgetown and Yale being the 2 most vulnerable teams.
Okay.
So, it's funny. Georgetown has a scenario where it could be in the clear basically by Saturday if it wins. If both Penn and Princeton lose, they're probably going to be okay. But I could give you a different scenario where if Penn and Princeton both win, then that's costing a spot to the field, and Georgetown might suddenly face a must-win scenario in a Big East final against Denver. So Georgetown's a bit vulnerable, and Yale, if it loses a second time to Princeton, it makes it a little dicey. Now it has a high-end win out at Denver back in March that's going to hold up, I think, pretty well for them, and they also have a victory over Penn that would be helpful too. But there's still some vulnerability there. And if there was just utter unmitigated chaos, if we're going to throw in, a Michigan maybe winning the Big Ten or a real surprise out of the Big East, that suddenly kind of puts either a Cornell or possibly a Penn State or even I don't think Maryland's going to miss out. But there is an extreme chaos scenario where maybe it's a little dicey for the Terps. There's certainly a scenario where Maryland ends up on the road in the first round if enough other stuff happens. But if they beat Penn State on Thursday, I think Maryland not only safely in the field, but safely getting a home game as well.
All right, he is Patrick Stevens at Discourse, D1S Course. The Patriot League tournament, of course, gets underway today, and 2 local teams going up against each other in Loyola and Navy. Are we back to a place where, hey, Army ended up figuring it all out, they're hosting, they're the favorites, or is it still completely wide open for these teams that have been bunched up together in the last few weeks?
I mean, I'd rather be Army than anybody else in that league right now, but I don't know if they're that much better than anybody else. I think there's a benefit that if they did get stuck playing, one of the teams they lost to, BU or Colgate, or a Loyola team that gave them some problems on Friday night, that they would be playing them with full rest, whereas the winner of one of those quarterfinals tonight is going to have to play again up in West Point on Friday. So a little bit of an advantage there. But I don't know how good Lehigh really is. I wasn't overly impressed with them when they played at Loyola, but they played better over the last few weeks of the season, and then almost got knocked off by Lafayette. You look at that BU Colgate game last Friday, where I was thinking in the first half, gosh, BU, have some pride, and then they come back and they erase an 8-goal deficit. They certainly did have a lot of pride.
Yeah.
Coming back from down 10-2 to win 13-12. So who knows with both them and Colgate? Those are 2 teams that have been all over the place. You really don't know what you're going to get. I like to use the phrase that a team's a joker in the deck. Well, those are 2 jokers in the deck in the Patriot League, and so would it be all that surprising if Loyola played well in 2 games and found itself with a shot to advance to an NCAA tournament as a 6th seed? I don't think it would be all that surprising. It also wouldn't be surprising if they got knocked out
tonight.
Yeah. So, I don't know if there's anybody that you fully trust, but I do think that the ceiling for Army, and frankly the floor for Army too, are probably both higher than they are for anybody else.
So I feel like we've talked about everybody else local. UMBC is still alive. I know like the tournament's in Albany, but they were competitive with both Albany and Vermont in the games they played this season. Like, do they have a chance of doing something this weekend?
Well, they've done things before, right?
Yep.
Remember back in 2019 that they were kind of an afterthought in that tournament, were able to win. And you're right. They they lost by a goal to Albany, and they played Vermont reasonably tough this past weekend. So they're certainly familiar with who they have to deal with on Thursday afternoon up there. I like Albany and the way that it's playing. The fact that they just trounced Binghamton on Saturday night, gives me some belief in the Great Danes, and it's stunning to think that Albany is hosting this conference tournament for the first time since 2018. It felt like you could basically just pencil that thing into Albany for so many years there for a while. I like Albany in that one, but you look at UMBC and the teams that it played. The team it played the worst against in league play, Binghamton, isn't in the tournament. So I think that for them they're going to have a chance, but it's obviously going to take some improved play to be able to get over the hump for sure. But nonetheless, I would say any of those teams have a chance. Albany, Vermont, UMBC, and Merrimack, which just parted ways with its coach over the weekend, the fourth team in the league. But or in the tournament. But I do think Albany is a better bet than anybody. Just given the way it's been playing of late.
I know we'll have more time to talk about this next week after the field is set, but just give me right now to you the number of I do this exercise with you in basketball season. Number of teams you need to feel confident you've got the national champion is what?
The thing is that I think it's probably a little bit more than that.
Wow.
Okay. I think that Notre Dame would be the clear favorite because Notre Dame has just played more consistently than at any point. But the funny thing about this season is, if you watch Notre Dame and Duke and Virginia, the three clear-cut best teams from last year, they're still all good. And Virginia's lost 3 in a row, so there's a little shine off that rose. And Duke obviously did not play well against Carolina on Saturday. But none of those three are as good as they were last year. And that's a pretty high bar, but none of the three are as good as they were last year. I'm not sure Maryland is as good as it was last year. And they obviously weren't as good last year as they had been the previous season. I'm not sure Penn State's better than it was last season. And so you're kind of looking at those top-tier teams. Well, who's actually better? Well, Syracuse is better. I think Hopkins is a better team this season. And Denver's better. And so you're there's a little bit of a prism you're looking through where it's like, well, these guys aren't quite as good as they were last year. And that's not to say that Duke and Notre Dame and Virginia and Maryland aren't good teams. And some of this is an inevitable function of all these COVID-era teams, maybe not having as much experience as they did a year before, maybe not loading up on as many grad transfers as they had the year before. So I do think that if we ran the simulation, right, 1,000 times or whatever, Notre Dame's probably winning it more often than anybody else. But you could see a scenario where either a Cornell or a Yale just simply got their offense in gear and just buried people that way. You could see a scenario where Virginia got hot. You could see, is Syracuse capable of taking that leap from a team that didn't even make the tournament last year? How about a Princeton, which is suddenly playing really, really well? If they get in, they're basically playing playoff lacrosse in mid-April. So I think there's to sit there and say, well, who can do it? Well, that takes a little bit of an imagination to say, well, what would have to go right? But there's a way that it could go right for any number of teams. But in terms of a likely core group, it's probably about 5 or 6 teams total.
All right. We will break it down more next week once the brackets are set. In the meantime, let's play our game. Can Patrick Stevens name the MLB teams for this manager or player? And, yes, we are running low on managers, but I went back a little bit, and I'm confident that there's no one-game appearance for this one. So We'll begin with our manager for this week, someone whose managerial career ended in '87, but 4 teams for the great Gene Mauch.
Gene Mauch was with the Phillies.
Of course.
And he was with Montreal.
Absolutely.
And he was in California.
Yep.
And so I'm missing one Gene Mauch stop.
76 to 80.
76 to 80 for Gene Mauch. Wow. That's interesting. I'm trying to let me see if I can puzzle this one out. I almost feel like we should move on to the next thing, and I could.
All right, you want to keep working on it? All right.
Yeah. Let me you know what? I'll throw out the Twins.
That's
Twins
the one. 4 for 4. Yeah. Of course, you did. This one will be trickier. Not active, but I'm not sure he's done yet either. And there have been a few teams packed in the last couple of years. 5 teams for someone who I thought was going to be one of the most dominant pitchers of the next decade. Noah Syndergaard has ended up with 5 teams.
Noah Syndergaard has ended up with 5 teams.
Yeah.
Well, he definitely was a Met.
Obviously.
All right. Noah Syndergaard was out in Anaheim, right?
He certainly was.
He was a Philly very briefly,
Absolutely
if I recall.
was.
Correctly.
Yep.
Am I recalling him surfacing in Cleveland last year?
You are recalling him surfacing in Cleveland last season. He surfaced somewhere else last season as well, and I had forgotten about this. But he began the year after signing a 1-year, $13 million deal with this team and then made 12 starts, and it did not go well. I had utterly forgotten about this.
Was he in San Francisco?
So close. So close.
He was a Dodger?
He was a Dodger.
Dodgers.
He was a Dodger.
Yeah, the Dodgers were the other
That's
ones.
right.
Yeah, that was the other one. And then I don't know that anybody would believe that this person actually was an all-star, but indeed, it was quite good. I'll just go ahead. 4 teams for James McCann.
Oh, no. Oh, gosh. Detroit for James McCann?
Yes, of course.
And he's in Baltimore right now, correct?
Yes.
Okay, well, I've at least salvaged this. Was he God. Now, remember, there's also Brian McCann. That's
It
sort
does,
of like,
yes, 100%. And now there's a Kyle McCann with the Athletics.
Yes,
so
there
3,
is in Oakland.
Yes, correct.
So it does sort of scramble things a little bit.
It does, I agree.
I'm just going to throw out well, was he a Met?
He most certainly was. That was the disappointment, was they gave him a bunch of money, and now they're paying him to be very helpful for the Baltimore Orioles.
And so eventually I'm going to run into one of these teams.
His only all-star season was the one that you're missing.
Is the one I'm missing, huh? Okay. Well, the funny thing here is that eventually I'm going to run into one of these teams that Brian McCann played for that I'm mixing up here. I don't know, the White Sox.
My God, stop it! That was where James McCann was an all-star. Was with the White Sox. It's only 3 teams for Brian. Do you want to try?
No, I don't. Although I think is he a Brave and a Dodger?
Not a Dodger. He was a Brave significantly. It was the do you know Griffin?
He was a Yankee, right?
He was a Yankee and an Astro for a couple of years. An Astro as well for Brian McCann. I assume Annapolis tonight. What else is on the docket?
No, actually, I'm at Camden Yards tonight.
Okay.
Doing other work.
Yeah, it's a big week.
But I will be at the CAA tournament.
Okay.
On Thursday and Saturday, writing off of the title game on Saturday, and then obviously some bracket coverage before we get into figuring out exactly how many games I can get to on the opening weekend of the tournament. My hope is to match last year's total of 3. Not sure that's likely, but we'll have to see. The obvious sites that would likely be in play: Hopkins, Maryland, and Virginia, depending on how this week goes.
At Discourse, D1S Course, of course, USA Lacrosse Magazine, more relevant at the moment. Patrick Stevens, always appreciate you, sir. We'll talk again next Tuesday, all right?
Awesome. Thanks so much, Glenn.
It's Patrick Stevens with us as he is every Tuesday here on GCR. Yes, I would encourage you to get out to Towson this weekend, and particularly if it ends up being Towson, Delaware on Saturday. I'm talking to It's like my boys' baseball schedule might screw with that a little bit, but I intend, and maybe if it's not Delaware, if Towson's playing in the title game on Saturday, I intend to try to get over there with the boys to watch that as your chance. The only local as tonight you could check out Navy. Navy Loyola is in Annapolis. But then the only local action the rest of the week is the CAA tournament in Towson. So we'd encourage you to get out and support the Tigers. It's a bummer that the Orioles happen to be playing on Thursday afternoon because that would work out really well. Towson gets the benefit because you want the highest seed to have the chance to have more rest. So the highest seed gets the early game on Thursday. Now, maybe with as quick as these games are going in baseball these days, you might even be able to pull off the double dip.
Ooh.
Like you might even be able to do the – maybe I'll pick up my kids from school on Thursday and take them to the Towson game. I'll think about that a little bit. But yes, Tigers are hosting the CAA tournament after a very impressive win over Delaware last week, a great chance to return to the NCAA tournament and a good chance to check them out this week. Yeah. More mucus than man.
Well.
Dude, it's so bad. It's just so bad. But here I am, man of the people, grinding it out. Going to go do radio tonight, the whole thing. We're going to find out what's going on in the world of local. Everything good? You sound you seem like you want to say something.
Well, I'm just trying to think of any way that, I could try to, make you feel better, but there just isn't.
The Orioles made me feel better last night.
They did? Okay, all right.
Well,
hopefully
made me feel better. You can. So one of the sports questions at trivia last night was very easy. It was name the team that drafted Caitlin Clark #1 overall.
Ooh, that would be the Indiana. Not what Glenn has, but fever.
Right, correct. No, I'm fine. That's the part that's difficult to explain to everybody is I'm not sick. I'm not. It just seems that way because it's mucus. You got a bonus point if you could say which team drafted Angel Reese.
That would be the Chicago
Certainly
Sky.
Was the Chicago Sky. Basically everybody in the bar got it and the bonus point, which I think is a great testament to the significance at the moment. But the other one that was trickier, we got it, but it was trickier. They gave us the names of 11 countries. You had to pick the 3 of them that have never won the FIFA Men's World Cup. 11 countries in alphabetical order. Argentina, Brazil, England, France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, Portugal, Spain, Sweden, Uruguay.
Okay. Darn, my historical. All right, so Argentina just won.
Yep.
Brazil's won. England's won. I'm going to go with. Oh, man. All right, so I'm ruling out Brazil, England, France, Germany. I want to say. Oh, man. I want to say. Just brainstorming right now. Portugal's never won. I want to say the Netherlands has never won. The 3 that haven't won.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that Uruguay's on the list. I wonder if that's supposed to, stump me. But I don't know. Like, would Uruguay? I think I'm gonna go with my gut is telling me Netherlands, Portugal, and Uruguay. Darn it!
You got 2 of them. You got 2 of them. Uruguay won the first ever World Cup in 1930, and then won again in 1950. Uruguay 2-time World Cup champions. The 3 are the Netherlands, Portugal, and Sweden. Sweden is the other one that has never won a World Cup.
Did you get those?
Yeah, we got them.
Okay.
But admittedly, it's the first 6 of the easy ones to knock off. You're and then Spain is pretty easy to knock off because it wasn't that long ago. So then it was we were in the same boat as you were with those 4, and I did not know confidently that Uruguay had won the World Cup, but it seemed like we knew the Netherlands had never won because that's come up a lot. The fact that they play in most finals to have never won a World Cup, and the fact that Portugal hasn't won one with Ronaldo made me think probably haven't won one.
Yeah,
probably. So we just kind of whittled it down from there, and we got those 3. Sweden was why would they be on the nobody? Who thinks Sweden's won a World Cup?
They got lucky.
Way to go, guy. Bad guess. Bad guess.
Got hot. I don't know.
So yeah,
Why
those are
World
the-
Cup? Like, what's going on?
I don't know.
National
Just
and worldwide.
it doesn't always have to be
it doesn't have to be
related to a local or a recent event.
Okay.
In fact, we won last night. We were in second place going into the final. My cousin's son finally came through for us as the final question. And I don't remember.
So he's your cousin, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yes, he's my cousin, but he's not. He's younger. He's a.
Yeah, I see.
In the most searched word
I'm
of
never good at these.
2016
16
was this Swahili word that means all pull together.
2016, and it was this.
And notably the most searched word in memes.
In memes.
Yes. It was a convoluted way they asked the question. Like once we did a little deduction, we got there.
What the heck was going on in 2016?
I threw out a wrong answer, and I think that was what got him immediately to the correct answer.
Gotcha. Darn. I can't even. I don't think I even have a guess here. A Swahili word. I don't have anything. I'm disappointed in myself.
Think about 2016 and what people were interested in then, because the word that I threw out was Coney, and that was 2012, right? Like where everybody was like, yeah, what is Coney? And I just remember it being a big thing on the internet. And what was a big thing on the internet in 2016? There was a big story that captivated. We lost.
Oh, there was an election, I believe.
No, that wasn't the one. It was before the election. We lost someone in 2016.
Harambe? Wow.
Harambe.
Okay.
Harambe is Swahili for all pull together. And that was the word. And credit to my cousin Duncan, despite the fact that he, like a jerk, showed up wearing his Orioles City Connect uniform just to try to piss me off. He has now won more frequently while wearing the Orioles. He has a better winning percentage in the City Connect jersey than the Orioles do. By far. By far. Just thanks
so he has
to getting
wearing,
the final.
Does he have to keep wearing it, or
we discussed the fact that, like, perhaps maybe, unlike the Orioles, who should never wear them again, he should wear them every Monday for trivia because
pretty good, undefeated.
He got something else right too last. Oh, he was the only person that knew. Apparently, there's a word and something else that nobody else knew. There's because he was an Eagle Scout. There's like an honor that you can get after Eagle Scout. Like if you complete another 5.
I'm not gonna know this.
Oh, I had never.
A Falcon Scout.
It's not a type of scout. It's an award. It's called the Palms Award. And apparently, after you're an Eagle Scout, you can get those. And he was an Eagle Scout. So
he never was a Palmer.
I laughed. Yeah, I laughed. I handed the paper to him. I'm like, go ahead, bud. You go right ahead. There was the one that I got that nobody else knew last night was all right. What are of the 10 newspapers in the United States with the biggest circulation currently? Which 2 are owned by News Corp?
Oh, News Corp. Oh, gosh, I don't know my newspaper corporations.
Well,
let's go with the New York Times.
Okay.
And the Washington Post.
0 for 2. 0 for 2.
Darn.
But if you combine those 2 into 1, you get the New York Post, which is correct.
Okay, so the
News Corp is the company owned by the Murdochs.
Oh, okay, yeah. So New York
Fox
Post.
fame, and the Wall Street Journal is the other one.
Okay.
That's owned by News Corp. So that one was everybody looked at me because I said it really quickly. I'm like, it's the Post, and I thought everybody knew, and they're all struggling with it. I'm like, no, that's the answer. Like you can go ahead and write it down. They're all like, well, let's talk it through. I'm like, why is this so hard?
I don't trust you.
Might be a man who knows a thing or two about newspapers. All right. It's Tuesday. Every Tuesday, we try to get caught up on what's going on in the world of local high school sports, as it's time for County Sports Zone Radio. Joining us now from County Sports Zone, he is our friend Wes Brown. Wes, good morning. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Everything is good, man. We talked about it last week. We're getting down into the nitty-gritty, and there was a big turn of events in MIAA lacrosse.
Yeah, so last Tuesday we talked about a pair of big matchups, and McDonough ended up pulling off the upset of Boys Latin. So we no longer have an undefeated team there at the top of the A conference. Nice 12-1 win there for McDonough.
Yeah, and as we get, I think we have like 3 games left in the regular season, the MIAA in lacrosse, and
yeah, pretty much some games tonight, and then some makeups and whatnot finishing up the week here.
So it feels like there's like a bit of a bunching now after that, like that there is not as much separation between the teams like with 1 and 2 losses now at the top of the MIAA, and the playoffs could be very interesting.
Yeah. So Calvert Hall and Boys Latin both are 6-1 there in league play.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Calvert Hall is going to be able to overcome the overall record, but at least there is a chance there. And Gilman plays Boys Latin tonight. They're 4th at 5-2 in league play. So could be another potential upset. So we'll have to see what shakes out at the end.
I was just looking at this because I have Spalding St. Paul's later today. So yeah, Boys Latin, Calvert Hall 6-1, McDonough 6-2, Spalding and Gilman 5-2. So there's 5 teams all within a game of each other atop the MIAA standings late in the season. That is really wild going into the final couple of games. All right, not just obviously MIAA lacrosse going on right now, but still very much into the public school side of things. Who's our athlete of the week for the week?
Yeah, so Andy Guzman over at Franklin baseball in Baltimore County, a senior there. 13 strikeouts and just 2 hits, no runs allowed in a game Friday against Lansdowne. The 5-0 win for Franklin was actually their first win since March. So they won their first 2 games of the year and didn't win again until Friday. But a great effort there to have a nice win here towards the end of the season.
Yeah, it's always a positive feeling to have after it's been a tough stretch. All right, so run us through. We are, as we keep talking about, we are very much in the home stretch. What does the calendar look like over the course of the next couple of weeks for championship season?
Yeah, so we're going to be ending up a lot of the regular seasons this week into next week. The MPSSAA brackets come out Monday, Tuesday next week. We'll have lacrosse on Monday, baseball, softball on Tuesday. And then the MIA-IAAM will be, closing up games here shortly. For the girls' side, lacrosse championships are May 10th and 11th at USA Lacrosse. And then softball championships are all on May 14th. While on the boys' side, baseball is May 18th and 19th, and lacrosse is May 16th and 17th. So we're within 3 weeks here of pretty much all the playoffs getting rolling.
All right. Of course, remind everybody what they can find at County Sports Zone.
Yeah, so CountySports.Zone is the home for, scores, schedules, and everything that has to do with high school sports in the state of Maryland. We've got Pick'em for baseball and girls lacrosse, and we're actually actively looking for student ambassadors at schools who want to, cover events. There's more information on the website there as well. Okay. So pretty much everything you can find involving high school sports.
And remind me on social?
CSC Scores on Twitter and Instagram, and then I'm at W_Brown21.
Very good. Wes Brown, appreciate you, man. We'll talk brackets next Tuesday.
Yeah, sounds good.
That's Wes Brown with us here on GCR for County Sports Zone Radio. Appreciate him taking the time for us. All right. I am I'm going to get through it. I promise you. I'm going to get through it, but it is a struggle. It is a struggle. John in Little Rock says, having asymmetrical ballparks is what makes baseball unique. I love it, and will always take it over every park being the same dull thing. It's a weird conversation for me. I agree that it's part of what makes baseball unique. It's that it is conflicted with the weird idea of there are different essential rules no matter where you're playing. And that we have treated certain numbers as being hallowed and revered, and those numbers are totally free of context. Now, we've come up with other statistics to try ballpark neutral how someone performs, and that's good, but it's just weird how in baseball we've continued to be obsessed with, like, the number of home runs that someone hit being what would get them into the Hall of Fame. Like, it took Fred McGriff years to get into the Hall of Fame because he came up, 5 home runs short of 500, something like that? Well, I don't know that anyone, I'm sure someone did the math and found out if Fred McGriff played at, the average MLB ballpark, would he have hit 524 home runs? And would he have automatically been in the Hall of Fame? It's the bizarre nature of how we hold up these numbers as being so relevant, despite the fact that they have no context for, is it possible that someone who hit 550 home runs, if he had been playing in an average Major League Baseball park, would have hit 485? And I'm not suggesting, because that seems like an extreme, discrepancy. But you get what I'm saying. We treat these numbers so significantly, and yet we never know what somebody's numbers would be from one ballpark to the next. And it's easy to say, hey, that's baseball. And to the point, John, I don't disagree with you. It's part of what we like about baseball. It does make the stadiums different. It makes the experiences different. It's just weird. It's weird that we both feel that way, and yet we still treat these numbers as being hallowed and revered at the same time. My answer is not make all of the ballparks cookie cutter, go back to the combined baseball football stadiums where everything looked the exact. No one in the world could tell the difference between the Vet and Three Rivers Stadium and Riverfront Stadium, and Memorial Stadium did look different because it didn't have the outfield upper deck. But I'm not suggesting the answer is to go back to cookie cutter circle stadiums. It's just acknowledging it, acknowledging how weird it is that we obsess over numbers. We are obsessed with them. And yet there's this discrepancy in what the numbers actually mean because of the ballparks that we play in them.
So everyone should just stop whining about any about baseball stadiums, essentially. Just I'm with John. I very much.
I think
enjoy,
everybody,
yeah,
for the most part, appreciates that part about baseball. I want the stadiums to look different. Now, I would also think that the modern stadiums would have the ability to look different, even if the dimensions were more similar.
It doesn't have to be quite as wonky.
Architecture can handle that for us. You know what I mean? I don't think it requires this. It is weird that a sport exists where you can change the rules on a whim. That. It's okay to both say, I'm fine with what the Orioles did, and to say, but it's really weird that they're able to do that. No football team can say, we've got a better kicker right now, so we're going to move the goalposts back 4 yards. You couldn't do that. The Ravens couldn't walk in today and say,
pretty cool,
we want to put the goalposts in the first row of the stands.
Can't wait for the next rules.
Well, they don't want everybody to.
Committee coming out.
They want to. You couldn't do that. They would never be allowed to. There's only one sport where we allow that, where we say you can change the rules for games played in I guess soccer, because there are some soccer pitches that are not, and I don't know, maybe this isn't the case in Europe, but I definitely know in the MLS, not every field is the exact same size.
Really?
Which is bizarre. But I think in order for NYCFC to be able to play in the baseball stadiums in New York, they basically had to have a smaller pitch. It's still weird. We can say it's weird and also say, but you're allowed to do it, so it made sense for the Orioles to do it. It's okay. We can say both things. One doesn't. If I say it's weird, that doesn't mean that, how dare the Orioles change their dimensions. We can just say it's weird. That's all. And we don't have to say anything else or make some grand statement. We only have one break left, Griffin, and I'd like to take it after our guests. So can you sort of do the thing where you say, hey, you can come on in and we'll go from there. We have a guest joining us in studio this morning as getting ready for a big time of year for the Maryland Jockey Club. So I'm very excited that we are welcoming him. Hi, how are you? I'm Glenn. You know what? I don't want you to think I'm sick. I have allergies. It's that time of year. It's awful. Okay, all right. I just didn't want you to think that. Audra Madison from the Maryland Jockey Club has joined us in studio this morning here on GCR. As, yes, we are getting into that time of year. There's a big horse race down in Louisville on Saturday. There's a really big one in Baltimore in a couple of weeks. Let's talk about this season with Audra Madison. It's so good to see you. Thank you so much for coming in and spending some time with us.
Thank you for having me.
Audra, a lot going on, obviously, over the course of the next couple of weeks for the Maryland Jockey Club. I would think that in general, before we get there, it's just sort of an exciting time right now. I think a lot of people are familiar that there has been good news that has been coming in the last couple of weeks. I would imagine it's an exciting time for everyone involved in the horse racing industry right now, right?
It is. It's very exciting. And as you noted, we have a big race that's coming up, as well as the 100th running of the Black-Eyed Susan. So big weekend, and Mother's Day kicks everything off.
So that's obviously the part that I didn't. I have gone 100 Preaknesses in my life. I've never done Mother's Day at the track. So you're telling me something new this year that I'm excited about telling everybody else about. Because a lot of us, admittedly, are very bad at this and wait very late into the process to go try to make our reservations for Mother's Day and find out they're not available any longer. So you're going to save dopes like me who need to do better for both our mothers and our wives and need to think about it a little bit. What can we do for Mother's Day at the track?
Oh, my gosh. We're very excited. This is a beloved event at Pimlico where we have Mother's Day at the races. And it is a elegant and elevated experience for moms. So with live racing, what better way to introduce and expose the woman or the woman, your MVP in your life, to a day of the races where they can have premium hospitality, a welcome drink upon arrival, potentially win some tickets to Preakness and Black-Eyed Susan. But it is an event that is curated specifically for moms. So we have photo booth opportunities so people can capture those, fun moments with their moms. And it's a day for moms. I'm a mom, and I'm bringing my mom. So
That's
cool.
cool.
It's a cool experience.
I was looking over the menu. Man, the menu looks great. The short ribs, the Cajun mahi, maple smoked ham, and then live jazz music on top of it.
We have a quartet by a great jazz band, Mr. Rob Reason. He has entertained us at all of our events this year. Phenomenal. So we have jazz, and he throws in some pop tunes. It's a great experience. It really is. And so if you want to introduce your mom or take her somewhere else where it's not the norm, with a finish line view, and you have entertainment, racing, as well as hospitality, Pimlico Racecourse is the place to be.
So let me add into that the fact that it's sort of like the kickoff for Preakness Week too, right? Like, not everybody's going to be able to make it out to Preakness or the Black-Eyed Susan Day. It is another opportunity to feel like you're part of the event by being there for Mother's Day, because like everything's going to be set up.
Absolutely.
You're going to be looking at like Preakness Week while you're there.
You have the view of the finish line.
Yeah.
You will see the structures for Turfside Terrace and the chalet.
Yep.
So having that view, as well as seeing the horses run by, you will imagine, and you can almost put yourself like you're going to be at Preakness Mother's Day weekend.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Where would people go to get, I don't know if I'm saying tickets or reservations or...
Tickets are selling fast.
Okay.
I just checked, today. Our VIP area is sold out.
Wow.
We're sold out.
So we're down in the nitty-gritty right now.
You're down to the nitty-gritty. So they can go to pimlico.com /Mother's Day.
Okay.
Get your tickets. I mean, it's a reasonably priced ticket at $85. That's all inclusive.
With everything, yeah.
With everything. You can't beat that.
And live racing, right?
And
like
live
on top,
racing,
like
right.
It's all of that all in one. And by the way, as anybody who has had to take care of Mother's Day plans the last couple of years knows, that is more than reasonable. That number, that is more than reasonable. And most places you're going aren't going to have live racing. I would say none of them are going to have live racing.
And we have families, generations coming to this event. So
that's cool.
We have like 83 families coming. So for your fans, get your tickets today.
Yeah. Don't waste any more time.
Don't waste time.
You're going to be scrambling.
Yes.
I completely get it. Audra Madison from the Maryland Jockey Club is in studio with us. Audra, obviously it's not just Mother's Day, as you mentioned, that's going on. It is a big couple of weeks. What else do you want people to know about as we get racing shifting back to Pimlico?
I think that right now it's just really embracing the racing.
Mm-hmm.
Preakness is iconic. It's Baltimore. It's racing. It's culture, and it's community. And we're excited this year to have the 149th running of the Preakness Stakes. We're excited about our Preakness Live entertainment featuring Jack Harlow. So get your tickets now for that as well, because they are going. And so we're excited. We're excited just to be focused on this big event.
Have you felt like the energy too that's come off the news recently, and like we've been waiting a long time to know what the plan is going to be and to know what the future of have you felt an amount of excitement within the industry, within just the community locally of, all right, we finally know what this is all going to look like. Everything got taken care of in the legislature. We're good. What has that done for the entire community to know, hey, this is what the plan is going to be for the coming years?
I think that, yes, the excitement is there. But to be very honest and transparent, we've been so focused on the racing and the excitement of the racing.
Yeah.
Because it is a big weekend.
Yep.
Right?
100%.
There are so many activities going on during the week that leads up to the stakes that has really been the energy and the focus for us.
I think one of the exciting things that I've noticed, and look, I'm a lifer, right? Like I have been at basically every Preakness for a very long time. The inclusivity, the idea that Preakness is for everyone, that has been abundantly clear over, say, like the last 5 to 10, that if you had never come before, we want everyone to experience this. How significant has that been? If there are still people that haven't been, that didn't think that Preakness was for them, that still remember, what Preakness was 20, 30 years ago, what would you want them to know about what the experience is like now at the track?
There are so many experiences for everyone. And you're right. Preakness is about diversity and inclusion. That's the culture and that's the community. And we've worked very hard to make sure that all of Baltimore, the DMV, and globally are aware and feel that same effort that we want to, and we have been working towards, to make sure that everyone is welcomed. There's something for everyone, from the racing to the entertainment to the food.
It is. I'm telling you, like when I was a kid, it was a completely different scenario. It was a wildly different thing. But like it really has blown me away. Like I have felt how significant that's been for the entire community to say, oh no, we feel welcome here. Like we feel like this is a place for all of us now. And I think that's been a really big deal and a really important thing. Now it's just about, making people understand it's not just that day. Like that there are many other, including Mother's Day, opportunities for you to get out to the track and for you to experience and touch horse racing and understand why it is that it's so important to, and I think that's something, Audra, that gets missed. Like this is an important part of our economy. This is an important part of what we're doing as a state. Get out and touch it and feel it and experience it in the coming week.
And Baltimore is lucky that you have it right here.
Yep.
This is, Pimlico, the iconic venue unto itself, come out, touch and feel. But Preakness, the race, that's our Super Bowl. That's how I equate it.
Yep.
So everyone should want to feel and touch and experience and see, what that race does. The adrenaline, the horses that come. I mean, it's unexplainable. So you have to at least add that to your bucket list at least once.
All right, you don't happen to have any betting advice for me for the Derby, do you? You can't help me win some money this week, can you?
No, but I can tell you that our analysts are looking at certain things.
Yeah.
I don't have no.
Are you a horse player at all? Like, have you?
I dabble.
Will you? I was gonna say on Preakness Day, will you be a horse player?
Oh, absolutely.
Everyone's a horse player on Preakness
Absolutely.
Day.
I put money on the whole field.
Do you really?
I do.
That's. You always win. You're guaranteed. If you put it that way, you're guaranteed
I put money on the
to
whole
have
field.
that feeling.
Somebody's gonna hit.
That's 100% right. And then you get the thrill, of feeling that win and going that way afterwards.
Yes.
Let's run over again. For Mother's Day, you got to get in now. Get in now, or you're gonna miss out. and you're going to feel really stupid, and your wife or your mom or both of them or your mother, they're all going to hate you. They're all going to say, when they find out where they could have been on Mother's Day and all you did was like take them to the Ponderosa, they're not going to be happy about it. So remind everybody one more time.
Mother's Day at Pimlico, Sunday, May 12th from 11 to 3. We have a special curated experience for all moms. Moms in your life, moms who are surrogate moms, aunts. It is a time of love, connection, but a special day for the MVP in your life.
That's really cool.
That would never forget this experience.
And tickets are available again, pimlico.com/Mother's Day, or search Mother's Day at the Races, and you will get all of your information for Mother's Day at Pimlico. Such a cool thing. Such a cool thing. And now I'm going to have to deal with my wife saying, let's go. Let's go, because I know how she is. Audra, it is so nice to see you. Thank you for coming in and spending some time with us. Can't wait to be out of Pimlico in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. That's Audra Madison from the Maryland Jockey Club. When we come back in, we'll wind things down, get a tidbit and tubular to wrap it up on Glenn Clark Radio.
Craving that classic New York deli experience? Look no further than the new Atman's Deli in Baltimore's Harbor Point. Corned beef piled high, hand-rolled bagels, and something different. A bar! Atman's has food and drink specials every day. Now open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Dine in, grab takeout, or hang out at the bar for the next O's game. Atman's Deli, an authentic taste of Baltimore tradition since 1915. Find us at Harbor Point or visit atmansdeli.com.
What company makes your home more energy efficient, purifies your air, kills all viruses, and qualifies you for $6,000 in rebates? A.J. Michaels Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis at ajmichaels.com.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Discover one of Baltimore's hidden gems at Guilford Hall Brewery. Enjoy dinner in our spacious brew pub, sip a signature cocktail in our outdoor dog-friendly beer garden, or take a tour of our brewery. Discover your new favorite local craft beer. From crisp lagers to hoppy ales, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Pair your brew with delicious appetizers and entrees. There are options for the whole family, but you have to try our fan-favorite giant pretzel. Guilford Hall Brewery, where every sip is a celebration. Visit us online at guilfordhall.com.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Grayson Rodriguez, talking to people who have been part of his path as the Orioles hope he'll become their next homegrown ace. Also inside, we remember legendary Maryland basketball coach Lefty Drizel with stories from legends like Roy Williams and Bobby Cremins about what it was like to go up against the old left-hander. Press Box is available at over 500 locations around Baltimore, including 60 Royal Farm stores. You can also find the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
The Ed Block Courage Award Foundation has been working in partnership with the NFL for 46 years to support abused, neglected, and at-risk youth across the country, partnering each team with a children's facility or program that supports the well-being of those in need. Annually, one player from each team is selected by their peers to receive the Courage Award for their inspiration on and off the field. Learn more about how the Ed Block Courage Award Foundation makes a difference, and be sure to check out their latest podcast and web series episodes at edblock.org.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, back in here on GCR as we are winding down for a Tuesday edition of the program. Alan tells me that hockey rinks are not identical dimensions.
Really?
Now, I'm not sure really, and again, I'll make the comparison. I'm not really sure how much the dimensions of a hockey rink have to do with the direct correlation between the dimensions of a hockey rink and the numbers, right? Like, I don't know whose goal total could have been aided by the dimensions of a hockey rink, because I'm going to guess that they're, like, off by a few inches. Right. Like, it's not dramatic. So I would still say that baseball stands out in that way, that, like, your statistics are legitimately impacted by the dimensions of the baseball field, which is unique, and I don't think there's any other sport. Like, that comparison that I make to if a goalpost were moved back 4 yards because the Ravens have Justin Tucker and nobody else does, like, it's weird, right? It's weird. There's no way around that. But I get somebody would say, well, it's no different. The Ravens can just kick from further out than other teams can. I know that. I'm trying to come up with some sort of parallel. And it's not easy. It's okay to say it's both weird, but also at the same time totally fine, and again, part of baseball. And the Yankees and their fans and the media that cover them obsession with it is effing weird. Like, it's bizarre. And yes, all the more bizarre because they have pop flies that are home runs. It's such a bizarro thing. And I don't remember, who did it start with? Who was the first, the pop-up park or the create-a park? That was
Aaron Judge.
Was Aaron Judge who said that?
Yeah, that was it last year? Maybe it was two. When did
it
they
feels
move?
like that's when this. That's when all of this started. Was Aaron Judge saying the create a park thing, and there's been like this bizarro obsession with it ever since then.
Yeah, build a park or whatever he said.
Whatever, and I can't even. God, I feel bad. I don't remember what it was, but I feel like there's been an obsession related to the Yankees and the wall ever since then.
I don't think we need to.
Like, dude.
Know what he
yeah, it's a
said,
good point. Get a hold of yourself. Like, go take a shower, man. Go enjoy a nice long walk somewhere. Touch grass, as some people like to say. Ain't that deep. All right, let's get a tidbit. Tidbit is brought to you. Tidbit and Tubular are brought to you today by Atman's Deli in Harbor Point. AtmansDeli.com is the website for you to check out all of their daily specials throughout the course of the week. The hot dogs, the corned beef piled high, everything you love about the original Atman's, and this location also has a full bar. Atman's Deli in Harbor Point. Check them out today.
All right. Let us start. All right, so we'll start with Gunnar. He became only the 9th player in baseball history to, at age 22 or younger, to have 10 homers in his team's first 28 games of a season. Can you name the previous 8? How many of the previous 8? I expect you to get.
I could have sworn I saw this
6.
last night.
It came from Sarah Langs.
Yeah, and I could have sworn I saw it. But did she have the list of the players, or
she did?
She
yes.
did. I thought I just saw the statistic for some reason. All right. Set it up one more time, as I think.
All right.
Sorry, I'm doing.
Gunnar Henderson
yes.
with his 10th home run of the season last night helped propel the Orioles to a
right.
win.
Yeah, you don't have to say the whole thing. Just the statistic, jerk.
10 home runs in the team's first 28 games of a season, age 22
or
younger.
Yeah.
10 home runs.
Was it Bryce Harper?
Bryce Harper is not one of them.
Okay. A-Rod?
A-Rod not. Or wait, hold on. I'm sorry, I clicked out of it. No, yes, A-Rod was one of them.
Okay.
1998, Alex Rodriguez. In the first 28 games of the
I
season.
always guess this guy, and I always end up. Andrew Jones?
No, not Andrew Jones.
I always associate Andrew Jones with being young and hitting home runs because he did it in the playoffs.
He also became the youngest player, this one according to the Orioles, youngest player in baseball history with 10 home runs before May 1st. The youngest player with 10 home runs before May 1st.
How about that?
Yeah.
I don't.
There are.
I don't know.
There's 2 more that have done it since in your lifetime.
Oh my God! So we're doing old-timey baseball names.
Well, they're not old-time. There's 4 guys that did it between 59 and 69. And there's one old-timer.
Duke Snyder.
Not Duke.
Rocky Calavito.
Not Rocky.
Eddie Matthews. Mellott.
1929, the first to accomplish this feat. Be 22 and hit 10 home runs in the first 28 games of the season.
Andre Dawson.
Not Andre Dawson.
All right, you're going to have to give me something. I don't want to be here all day.
One of them is active, and then the other one did it in 95.
I'm trying to remember what age these people were at that point.
They were 22 or younger.
It doesn't help me at all. God.
Well, he's older than 18. Younger than 22.
This doesn't help, man.
In fact, both of these guys that did it in 95 and 2020 was the active player.
2020.
They both had 12 home runs in their first 28 games of the season.
But 2020 was the... How am I supposed to be... 2020 was the COVID year. Nothing happened.
This guy hit 10 home runs.
Nobody knows that.
As a 22-year-old.
No one knows. That was in half the season.
It was the halfway point.
That wasn't one of the Braves. It wasn't Acuna or Albies, was it?
Not a Brave.
Fernando Tatis.
Fernando Tatis Jr. In 2020.
What was the other year you said?
95.
The hell, my 95. I hate this. This is a bad list.
All right, fine. I'll give you all the guys.
Just give me something.
He was
95.
He's on the current Hall of Fame ballot and is not in.
He's not in.
But he's on my ballot.
He's on your ballot. Great. I bet that helps.
I mean, for some people, it probably would.
Jeff Kent? No, he was older than that. 95.
It's a good guess.
You love Jeff Kent.
He should be in the Hall of Fame. Before Jackson Holliday dethrones him as the best offensive second baseman of all time.
Is he not in because of steroids?
Correct.
Well, Bonds isn't on the ballot anymore. Yeah. Sosa's.
I guess he also people didn't love his attitude.
Oh, Manny.
Manny Ramirez. Manny Ramirez had 12 home runs in the first 28 games back in 95.
All right.
And then this one, I guess you probably won't get. George Scott in 1966.
Sure.
And then in 69, 2 players did it. One of them was an Oakland A.
Reggie Jackson.
The other, I don't know a whole lot about him, but I guess I'll give it to you. Carlos May.
That makes 2 of us.
Okay.
I wasn't getting that.
And then in 1959... I believe he was a Tiger.
Tiger?
Have that right?
Al Kaline? No, he would have been.
Maybe he was a twin.
A twin. Harmon? Was it Harmon Killebrew?
Harmon Killebrew.
My wife, or not my wife. Yikes.
Harmon Killebrew's your wife?
No, my mother. My mother lived on the same street as Harmon Killebrew in Minnesota when her family lived there. Yeah.
Huh.
I remember being very young. We were at the Mall of America. My parents drove us across the country to see our cousins in Las Vegas.
Nice.
And we stopped at the Mall of America, and inside the Mall of America, they have up on a wall a seat from the old, because the old Twin Stadium was where the Mall of America is. And it was a seat for where a Harmon Killebrew home run. I don't remember what, whether it was a record or a milestone or whatever it was, but the seat was inside the mall. And my father pointed it out to me, and then my mother was legitimately emotional. And I was like, the hell? This is weird. And I knew that my mother had told me that her family lived in Minnesota for a little bit when they were growing up. And she was like, we actually lived right down the street from Harmon Killebrew. He's one of the nicest people ever. And I was like, oh, wow, that's cool. That's pretty cool. Now I thought my mom was cool for a minute. For a minute. And then it ended.
For a minute.
Right. Then it ended. But yeah. Yeah. That's my Harmon Killebrew connection.
Nice. Well, I'm glad we did this tidbit.
I don't know what the seat is. I'll tell you in 1 second. Harmon Killebrew seat.
Mall of America.
Harmon Killebrew Mall of America. Harmon Killebrew Homer Tribute Chair. A red stadium chair is bolted on the wall above the log chute ride at the Mall of America. It marks the spot where Harmon Killebrew smacked the former stadium's longest homer, 522 feet, in 1967. Home plate can be found properly positioned as well. How about that? There you go. There you go. That's the Harmon Killebrew
because I went to the Mall of America. Like, we did a road trip 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah?
And we stopped at we stopped at Mall of America just for 15 minutes because we felt like we had
to see
but
it.
If I had known this was there, I would have.
When the Super Bowl was in Minnesota, they did Radio Row at Mall of America, and like I saw like pictures and video, and I was like, that's a nightmare. There's no room to move around. There's
that doesn't seem like that
it's an awful idea. Awful.
It's like, oh, big mall, yeah. There's got to be plenty of room. That
bad. All right, tubular for tonight. The Orioles and the Yankees continue their series just after 6:30 on Masson. Nestor Cortez. Did Nestor Cortez ever actually pitch for the Orioles, or was he just?
I think he did. I think he pitched. He pitched like a couple of.
I remember him being a Rule 5 draft pick. I just don't remember if he ever
there
actually.
There are pictures of him on the mound, I believe. And in
are there?
Orioles
I believe
yeah.
you. Okay, I believe you. I just don't. I don't.
That doesn't look anything like him.
Well, I mean, that was what year was that?
It was 19,
18,
I think.
18.
18.
Okay. He Cortez made the Orioles opening day roster. He made his major league debut on March 31st. He was let go on April 10th. So he was an Oriole for 10 days. 10 days.
And he pitched 2 or 3 times, I guess.
I didn't get the stats. But yeah, that's former Orioles legend Nestor Cortez on the mound tonight against Dean Kramer. As we mentioned, Patriot League tournament gets underway tonight on ESPN Plus. Loyola and Navy down in Annapolis at 6. Cool this afternoon, Maryland baseball playing at Towson at 3 o'clock on Flow Sports, but also just a day that you could wander over. Bring your lawn chair or blanket, sit on the hill there at John Sherholtz Park. Very
Probably
cool.
Don't need a blanket today. Oh yeah, but to sit on.
To sit on, yes. Not to cover yourself.
Maybe
just to
both.
Not sit in the grass was what I was saying. That's at 3 o'clock. That'd be a cool thing to go do. NBA playoffs tonight. Sixers try to avoid elimination against the Knicks at 7 o'clock for Game 5 on TNT. Then the Pacers will try to finish off the Bucks, Game 5 at 9:30. NBA TV, pivotal Game 5 between the Magic and Cavaliers at 8 o'clock. Stanley Cup playoffs tonight on ESPN. Maple Leafs Bruins, followed by Avalanche Jets, Game 5 at 9:30. TBS, Islanders Hurricanes, Game 5 at 7:30. Predators Canucks, Game 5 at 10. Masson 2, Nationals Rangers at 8. MLB Network Cubs Mets at 7. Braves Mariners at 10. CBS Champions League semifinals. Leg 1 between Bayern Munich and Real Madrid, 3 o'clock. The USA Network for WWE NXT at 8. Non-sports.
Seinfeld's going to be on Kimmel about the Pop-Tart movie.
We're talking about how comedy was ruined. God, it's Jerry Seinfeld did like some interview over the weekend that got all this run about like the left ruined comedy. Like, dude, if what and I mean this with all due respect.
Going on Kimmel, so
to comedians of a certain age, the fact that it got harder because you weren't allowed, the joke was no longer able to be this person's gay, ha ha, only speaks to you. It doesn't speak to the country. It doesn't speak to the industry. It speaks to you that you think it's difficult, that the butt of the joke is no longer allowed to be someone's gender orientation, whatever it is. There are lots of people that are hilarious, that are having no problem whatsoever. None. Jerry Seinfeld did a bit about like, well, it's the death of the sitcom. Dude, the networks don't air the sitcoms anymore. They're all on streaming services, except for Abbott Elementary, which, by the way, is still very good. There are plenty of good sitcoms. You're showing your ass when you say these things. It don't hit the way you think it hits. And I mean, it does for a certain amount of people. For a certain number of mouth breathers, like, yeah, it hits for them. But for the public at large, all you're doing is telling us something about you. I can't be funny anymore because it requires me to have to, like, think and to, like, make a joke. And I can't just say, your Chinese isn't that funny. Dude, that's a statement about you. I don't know how to say this. Like, just say I'm not good at this. And this is easy for me to say because I don't love Jerry Seinfeld the way that some people do. I think he was funny, but I definitely never thought that Seinfeld was the greatest comedy of all time the way that some people do. I don't think Seinfeld is as good as Parks and Recreation. Like, I think there are comedies that on a thinking level were better. Now, I think Seinfeld was good, but I also think a lot of that had to do with Larry David. I would tell you, I think Curb is better than Seinfeld. It screamed at me yesterday when I saw that on the screen because, again, to a certain percentage of the population, it plays, and to everyone else, you're not making them think about anything other than you. Why aren't you good at comedy anymore? It's not hard. We're still plenty willing to laugh. There are plenty of good sitcoms. Why aren't you able to be funny anymore? Why do you think it's so hard? That's all.
All right. Don't want to miss it. 11:30. Jerry Seinfeld responds to Glenn Clark on the Jimmy Kimmel Show.
Get definitive answer about that.
Speaking of good sitcoms, Lopez versus Lopez, the season 2 finale tonight on NBC.
That one I wouldn't put in that category, but again, I haven't watched it. Maybe I'm wrong.
Great duo here. Tiger Woods and Benny Blanco are on Jimmy Fallon tonight. I don't know why Tigers
travel together or something like that. I don't know. Speaking of good sitcoms, you ever seen Dave? I don't even like Lil Dicky, and I think Dave is a great sitcom. Doofus. That's doofus. You can't make good sitcoms anymore. Yes, you can.
My guest with David Letterman is John Mulaney is on this one. It's on Netflix today. And then on Hulu, the Veal. V-E-I-L. That's Veal, right?
Veil. Oh, my God.
The Veil.
Oh, my God.
It's Elizabeth Moss. She's a spy. She's running all over Europe alongside, guess who?
Try the Veil.
Josh Charles.
Oh, I love Josh.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was doing that thing.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. But
how about that?
That series premieres today on Hulu.
How about that?
Alongside Elizabeth Moss.
Was that the thing he was shooting in Paris?
It must have been because I think they're like all over Europe, and it looked like they were all over Europe. So
the Veal. Try the Veal.
The Veil.
Well, I'm gonna have to watch it. Obviously, I did watch the first 2 episodes of the show Baby Reindeer that Jeremy told me to watch. It's good.
It is.
I'm hooked. I'm all in. I'll finish it. I mean, I would finish it no matter what.
I gotta catch up on Bad Batch.
Sure, you get right on that. That'll be one of us.
In the middle of it, yeah.
All right. For more of my thoughts on Jerry Seinfeld, tune in. Thanks today to.
This will be a great saga. Yeah. So Jerry will respond tonight. Tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow.
Respond.
Yeah. Whatever he says tonight. God, it's just so late. Like, just say, dude, I'm not good. I'm not good at comedy anymore. You can just say that. Like, it required there to have to be more thought in the jokes, and I couldn't just, you're gay, that's funny. Comedy is better now. And there's certainly areas, don't get me wrong, where I think people are too, like, a lot of people reacted to Shane Gillis using the R word in his Saturday Night Live monologue. But as I said the next day, he actually used it, if you're going to, I don't think it was necessary, but he used it in a way where it made it very clear that the person that was using that word was the butt of the joke, which is why it worked. It's just be better. Be better at comedy. It's not hard. I mean, I guess for you, Jerry Seinfeld, it must be. It's weird. Very weird bit, man. Very, very weird bit. All right. Thanks today to Karl Ravech. Thanks to Sanoussi Kane. Thanks to Patrick Stevens and to Wes Brown. We'll get it all up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh, my God, it's so good.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Tomorrow, Rashad Bateman is scheduled to join us.
Yes,
That seems significant.
Yeah.
Drew?
Yeah, Drew will help preview
not as
Rashad
significant.
Bateman conversation.
Right, not as significant. Far less significant. Like, here and then here. Big day tomorrow. Stuff and things?
Stuff and things.
Thanks to everybody at Pressbox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Live Casino and Hotel, Atman's Deli, AJ Michaels, Guilford Hall Brewery, Royal Farms, Eblock Courage Awards, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, Costa Sin, MSAA, Hartford Community College, Glory Days Grill, Baltimore Orioles, Maryland Jockey Club, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. I will see you tonight at 6:30 with Rita over on 105.7 The Fan. Have a great Tuesday evening. Go Birds. Go Loyola or Navy Lacrosse. Go Maryland or Towson Baseball. Duke sucks.